Hello there, YouTube. Devin here again. Good morning to all of you. I have another helmet video for you. And since you guys seem to like Russian helmets so much, and you really liked the SSH-68N of last week, I decided to bring in one of my more favorite Russian helmets as well. This is the last generation of the 6B27. It's one of my favorite helmets, actually, it's an interesting shape. It's a very kind of Pazget-esque style of helmet. Not really in its shape, kind of similar shape along the same principles, but not exactly the same as a Pazget, and a very similar suspension to the Pazget. This is lighter than the Pazget. At its largest size, the 6B27 would weigh 1.25 kilograms. And at its smallest size, it would only weigh 0.95 kilograms. So it is substantially lighter than a lot of Western helmets are. This is designed to stop basically the same threats, but going even further, it'll stop a TT bullet, so that's the 7.62 by 25 at 40 meters. Which is kind of interesting because I think it's 40 feet. Sorry, which is like a lot. It's pretty heavy as far as its protection level goes for being so light. So this is a helmet that had been in serial production since 2006. It was adopted in 2005 along with two other designs of this similar shape and layout. They would all have the same suspension, liner, and chin strap. Things like that, but the shells were different. So the 6B26 is the Mountain Trooper version, which is even a lighter, thinner version of the 6B27. The 6B27 would be like your standard infantry model, and the 6B28 would be a 6B27 that's a little bit more cut down, a little more streamlined for airborne troops. Those would remain in serial production for quite a long time and would not be even start to be being replaced until the current helmets that Russia is fielding right now to their general infantry, which would be the 6B47 and the 6B7-1M. This helmet did come out in 2006 in serial production. In 2005, like I said, it was adopted to replace the original 6B7, which is a Gen 1 composite helmet from the very early 2000s, and they're big and bulky and chunky and really kind of terribly constructed as far as their appearance goes, but they work quite well, I guess. I don't have one because they're incredibly expensive. It would be cool to have one eventually, but they're really interesting looking. They're really blocky and like geometrically shaped. They're very interesting, the early Soviet designs, and this is a much more streamlined design. This seems to, and now this is just a speculation, the shell shape is just like another helmet shape that I have from kind of the late 90s, early 2000s, made by RBR. It's basically identical to that shape, which is interesting. So I'm guessing that's where the Russians got this from, and RBR was like a commercial body armor company from the UK. But they would sell to just about anybody because they're a commercial company. So I believe the Russians got a hold of one of those somehow, and that's what they used as the basis for the shape of this helmet. I did a video on that where I have an RBRS4 from like 1996 or something like that, which is the same exact shape as this helmet. The suspension and stuff is a little different, but the shape and the layout's exactly the same. That's about it for the history of this helmet. There is a couple different versions. The earlier ones are going to be in green. They are all made out of that aramid fiber, like a VSM, that the Russians tend to make a lot of their body armor out of, which is basically like their version of Kevlar. It's an aramid kind of composite material. And then the last version of the 6B27 you would see in this kind of pattern. It's literally part of the helmet. It's not painted like this. It's on the fabric that the helmet is like made out of. As you can see, it's like shiny on top. This is in digital flora, which is cool because I've never like seen this done with another country before. I mean, I've seen camouflages like painted onto helmets, but I haven't seen it actually like part of the helmet shell, you know what I mean? So that's very interesting that they did that. They put the camouflage as part of the helmet. So but we'll flip the camera around now. We'll take a look at the liner. Now, this does not have the original liner in it. This has, at one point, been repaired with a 6B71M-esque liner, which is all right. There's nothing really too fancy or thrills about this liner or suspension system, and it's not really all that different than the original suspension it would have had, other than the color has now changed and the chin strap works a little bit better. Other than that, they're pretty much the same suspension, which makes sense because the original chin strap was basically just a hook over a D-ring. That was it. It was very prone to coming undone. The Russians used that for quite a long time, until very recently, and then they replaced it with a kind of, traditional strap through a D-ring and then a snap closure type thing. So we'll flip the camera around, take a look at the liner, and then we'll come back after we look at the liner, and I will put on the helmet and see how it fits and feels and compares to other helmets I have experience with, and show you how stable it is, yada yada, this and that, and then we will conclude the video. Alrighty, so here we are looking on the inside of the 6B27, and so first of all we'll cover the chin strap, which is, like I said, it's very reminiscent of the British style of chin straps from the Mark VI and whatnot, where you would route the chin strap through the D-ring and snap it back on itself. The chin cup is not adjustable in any way, shape, or form. That's just how it is. You have to deal with that, as with, traditional Russian fashion. The chin strap is adjustable at both of the temple areas via these, buckles, and then at the rear here by this buckle and this strap. So there's white kind of suede pads, which are very nice. As you can see, these are unissued because they're super nice and not dirty, because the white suede would get incredibly dirty incredibly fast. So we'll take a look at the markings that this helmet has in it, and Russians are weird because they do these basically like wrote on markings. They're not like stamped. These are all wrote, like hand wrote onto their helmets, as far as like when they were made and stuff like that. And then over here you could see, here's the model, and you could see 6B27, it's a level 2 helmet, and then it has the maker's like logo insignia in this kind of weird chalky marker paint. Same thing with this, where these tend to rub off really easy on a lot of Russian helmets, so it's really hard to tell on a lot of them. But the suspension itself seems to be kind of needlessly complicated and simultaneously like uncomfortable compared to a lot of helmets. As you can see, it's very reminiscent of the Pazgat that most people are familiar with, or like the M1 style of helmet suspension. It's adjustable in a few places. So right here, you can adjust the suspension itself on both sides for tightness with these kind of little laces. You can adjust the height of the crown with this kind of lace through the Riddell system. You can adjust the circumference of the chin strap, not the chin strap, the sweatband, which is also fabric. It's this kind of inner loop right here in the rear. And so what that allows them to do is they only need to make one size of suspension to put in various sizes of helmets, which I think is beautifully creative in the fact that, this is a very comfortable fabric. It's a mostly cotton-based fabric, so it breathes well. It is very narrow, so it does tend to like cut into your head and stuff like that. It does also wear out really, really fast, unlike the leather, sweatbands and stuff of like a lot of Western nations. But they're cranking these things out real quick. They're, cheap little bits of fabric that they could churn out, and they're making only one size, and you could drop it into every helmet because you could adjust the circumference so that way all the, holes line up on every helmet with these two right here, these two adjustments, and then you could adjust the sweatband with this loop, and then you could adjust the crown height with that loop. It's a very simple, system, and it works. It gets the job done. I don't hear a lot of too bad stuff about how this helmet like fits and feels and works and stuff like that. So, I mean, you don't hear Russian soldiers complain all that much about their equipment because it just tends to work. Throughout history, they know it's not the most comfortable or anything like that, but it tends to work. That's kind of what the Russians expect from their equipment, that it works, and that's about it. It's not meant to be comfortable or particularly more effective or anything than other types of, helmets or stuff that's being fielded by the enemy or allies and stuff like that. It's just meant to do a job, and as long as it does that job, that's more than you can expect really from Russian equipment. And this is really no different from that. It's a huge upgrade from what they were, being issued at the time. This is really the first time that Russian soldiers, on a more standard basis, would start seeing helmets that weren't steel. They would have there was obviously composite helmets and stuff before this, like the 6B7, but this is really the first time that you're kind of not frontline infantry soldier might be able to get a composite helmet rather than a steel helmet, was with this series of helmets, the 6B26, the 6B27, and the 6B28. So, interesting story and a lot of history behind this. So now that we've taken a look at the suspension, we're going to flip the camera back around. I'm going to try this on, and we're going to see how it fits and how it feels compared to other helmets of the day and age. So stay tuned for that. Alrighty, so we're back. Let's throw on the 6B27 here. Okay, so right off the bat, this thing is, without even putting the chin strap on yet, incredibly light. Like laughably light. It feels like a toy almost. It's weird how light it is for being like a modern, like composite helmet. It's awkwardly light, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where, you're like, I don't know if it's really like what people make it out to be. So we'll adjust the chin strap here a little bit, slide this thing down so I look more even. So it feels like a Pasget. It feels like a Pasget, but much lighter. And if I move my head around, this helmet doesn't have a lot of, play in it. It's very comfortable. It seems to be, then again, I have hair right now. So I would imagine not having hair, would probably be a little bit different with this. I can tell there's rub points, like how the sweatband runs through those loops, much like the French, like F1 and F2 helmets do, and the Canadian CG634, which I have a lot of problems with, how they did the sweatband on that. So like I could feel the rub points, the loops where the sweatband routes through on the suspension. But it's a softer, nicer fabric than like the nylon. So it's not unbearable. I feel like with a little break-in time where this like suspension starts to like form to you a little better and the chin strap would start to form to you a little better, it would be a nicer, fit, but in stuff like that, and as far as like comfortability goes. But overall, this helmet doesn't have a lot of play. It has, it feels stable on my head, comfortable on my head. As you can see there, it's still doing the suspension thing where it has the room to, move. The shell has the room to move, but the suspension doesn't. So you could see the movement, but the suspension inside my head is staying firmly on my head, this is what you want. It's gonna, in a suspension style helmet, because it's gonna keep your, the impact power from like the impact force from transferring into your head. It acts as like a natural spring, like a cushion to absorb some of that impact. This is also, like, as you can see, an incredibly wide helmet. And now I wear a size large, like ACH, ECH, like Pasget, that type of stuff. I wear a size large in that. And even this is, I have tons of room. So at this point, Russians, for the most part, weren't really using, like, comms and stuff like that. But this would be nice for, like, winter equipment being used under this, fitting a nice winter hat in here, or, like, ear warmers and stuff. This would be great. And later, as comms would become more available, or if you were one of the people that did get comms and stuff like that, it would fit underneath this helmet with a lot of ease, actually. It's a wide helmet, but it's a very nice, like, ergonomic helmet. It doesn't feel super wide. It feels wide compared to like Western helmets, but it doesn't feel like needlessly wide. You know what I mean? It's not blocking my view at all. I mean, obviously every helmet's going to block your view a little bit up here at the top, but I have full peripheral vision to the sides because of how like streamlined and far back this taper is in the shell. So if I try to like stick my fingers in my ears, just a little bit, it blocks it just a little bit of my hearing. I would have probably 90% plus of my hearing with this helmet on, which is good, but it's still offering you quite a lot of protection, which is neat. So now we're going to do the thing where I show it to you being worn from a bunch of different angles, and then when I'm facing the wall here, I'll simulate going prone. I'll look up as high as I can. We'll see if the chin strap tugs and pull, if the helmet shell tends to ride forward or back. I'll push up on the back of the helmet to simulate if I was wearing a high colored body armor or something, or lots of like winter equipment if it would rock forward and block my eyes. So we'll do that right now. So this is obviously the 6B27 from the front. This is the 6B27 from the right side profile. As you can see, very incredibly streamlined shell shape. It's very, very space age looking. And then here we have it from the rear. If you can see, there's actually a fairly high kind of skirt cut out of this, so that way it hopefully will not bite or cut into the soldier's neck or equipment, causing their vision to be blocked. So I'll look up as high as I can now to simulate going prone. And much like I expected, there isn't any excessive tug on the chin strap. The helmet doesn't rock forward at all. This might be the best performing one so far as comfortability. Looking up as high as I can, I feel almost nothing with how light this helmet is and how nice it's laid out, you know, as far as like the cut of the shell goes and how the suspension is. This might be the best performing helmet as far as like prone test goes. So I really can't complain about this thing at all. And this would be the left side of the 6B27. So hopefully you learned something from this video and you found that this helmet would be cool and all that other good stuff. These are still available. There is a lot of repros out there, so you got to be careful. A lot of people are passing off repros as real ones. So be very leery of that. Basically all my Russian stuff I bought from like what would be considered a bunch of like shady looking Russian sites, but to their credit, the Russians are usually fairly honest people, and everything's showed up and it's all been real. So I mean, I haven't done anything, but I know a lot of the stuff on like eBay and crap like that are actually like fakes, or like airsoft equipment that's being pawned off as the real thing. So just be very leery if you're trying to find one of these, but it's a very good, very, very cool, neat helmet. And I've always liked Russian helmets and stuff like that. These are too expensive to ballistic test, but I would be very excited to actually try one of these in a ballistic test because I hear they perform quite well. And it's amazing that they perform as well as they do, like on paper even, like statistically, for as light as they are. And that's something I tell people all the time, is that Russian helmets are like shockingly light compared to Western helmets. And they're doing the same job, usually on paper, even better than Western helmets, while being, you know, like 25 to 30% lighter than like American or British or you know, French or German helmets. They're doing so much better while being so much lighter, which is kind of weird. So, but hopefully you learned something from this video. If you want to support the channel so you could fund cool projects and cool stuff like ballistic tests and other things like that, as well as buying ammo for some of my weirder guns and things like that, it goes a long way to support the channel. If you want to become a part of the Patreon, there will be a link in the description. As little as $1 a month gets you into the Discord even, where it's the best way to ask me questions. If you have any questions on anything or stuff like that, that's the best way to do it. Or if you want me to identify something for you, I do unlimited identifications for the Patreon members and the Discord members. The Discord's the best way to be like, hey, I don't know what this is, can you tell me? That's the best way to do it. And you're really, really supporting the channel for as little as $1 a month. So I hope that's enough to incentivize you to pay $1. Because if I got up to like 100 Patreon members, for one, I don't know what I'd do with all that money. And for two, it would be super, super cool because the places I could take this channel would be off the charts. So if you can't do that though, or you choose not to, or you think I'm just here to, you know, entertain and I shouldn't be getting paid or anything, that's fine. You know, stuff like that. I'm not forcing people into paying or anything like that, but it goes a long ways to really help the channel and help support, you know, the cool videos that you enjoy watching so much. And if you can't, you know, or you don't want to, just watch the video all the way through, you know, don't have any ad blockers, like the video, comment, you know, share and stuff, that causes YouTube to have to pay me more, and that's great. So, because then you're not doing too much out of your way as far as effort goes, and YouTube is being forced to pay me more then. So, because I appear in the algorithms better. So, thank you all for watching. Hopefully I can see all of you here in the future. Bye-bye now.